Cool. Welcome. Thanks, everyone. Don't run off to put your passport in the prize thing now, please. Hold off 45 minutes. There will be plenty of prizes. All good. We've got a very interesting panel here today. But before we dive in and start talking about personalization and engagement for all of your apps and the great advices that you have for the audience, maybe quick introductions might be useful. My name is Wout. I lead up the customer success organization at Linkplum, a mobile engagement platform. So I talk about engagement and personalization almost 8 hours a day in my regular work. So I'm very excited to do that a little bit more, but now in person and not on a Zoom call. So what I want to do is for our panelists to introduce themselves real quick. But when we do that, we're going to have a little warm-up question with that. And then I would like to ask you guys, like, what is the one app that during the pandemic you could not live without? Because that's going to be, obviously a big thing over the last 2 years. So think about that. And we'll kick it off with you, Elena.
Hi, everybody. I'm Elena. And I'm representing here CoCheck today. I'm leading the marketing team. CoCheck is an app, is a scanning app, and it provides full transparency on the ingredients of our food and cosmetics that we consume. So basically, you scan the barcode of a product, and you check if it's healthy, if it's sustainable, if it includes palm oil, microplastics, allergens, and so many more ingredients that one needs to avoid. And I'm really happy to be here today.
And what was your app?
Favorite app?
Yes.
Boring. I love music, and I love podcasts. Spotify.
Good choice, good choice. I see you have a fan already. That's awesome. Kai, what about you?
Cool. Hello, everyone. I'm Kai. I'm here as a part of the AT Health team. We are a AI health check company. I'm specifically focusing on the app business, and we aim to contribute to sort of making health more accessible to a billion users. It's kind of our slightly ambitious but very exciting goal. And yeah, we provide AI-based symptoms check and tracking and assessment. Yeah, and I'm a part of the CRM team. We're not a big team, but we're very hardworking and very excited. And as for the app, I checked my screen time, and according to it, it's TikTok. Only on the weekends, of course, like I work on the weekdays. But yeah, to be frank, I think it has the app that has sort of one of the best algorithms. At least it could recognize what I want and what I like very easily, very quickly. So very good in that sense. The retention pushes, not so good, but no one is perfect. So, but TikTok it is.
Nice, very good. Awesome. In the last part, John, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I'm John. I'm from Mallorca. So before landing to CRM, I was working in many fields, from creative copywriting in agencies, the old style agencies, SEO, web design. I also make some ventures, work in PR, also in customer support, where I learn a lot. But I landed in CRM like 5 years ago. I work in 3 apps, so I'm really focused in the app environment, like this conference. I worked for Fortunica app. It's like an app where you connect with life advisors, where you can ask them spiritual questions, and they make you tarot readings or astrology, natal charts, and so on. Then I jumped to Blacklane. It's a chauffeur service, like a high-level Uber transport mobility service. And now I'm working for Share the Meal. Share the Meal is part of the United Nations World Food Program. And we're a fundraising app, so you can donate at so little as 70 cents, and we will send a meal to some of the causes you are selecting around the world. Could be Nicaragua, Afghanistan, Yemen, and we will send the food there. So please download the app and start changing the world. So about your questions,
yeah.
I don't like to spend so much time with the apps, but I have like more than 200 apps installed in my phone, and I just check in onboardings, checking the pushes to see how it's like a part of my work. But there are like 2 apps that I was using in the pandemic, and they are kind of the same. One is chess. It's and I like to play asynchronous way. So you make one turn in 1 second, and my enemy will receive a push. Okay, it's your turn. He has 7 days to do the turn, like really relax. They make the turn, I receive a push, I make my turn. And then the other app, it's something similar. It's called Polytopia. It's a game. It's a strategy game. It's like chess, but a little bit more building civilization. And it's the same structure. No? You make one turn, and the other person do it. So you don't need to spend so much time in the app. It's just 1 minute every day, and that's it.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. But probably engagement and re-engagement very important for those apps to remind you to come back and make your chess move after you forgot it about 3 days. Nice. Cool. We're going to talk a lot about engagement and personalization for your specific apps. And we're going to touch upon many, many different topics from different strategies to different tactics and different technologies that you guys all use and what you would recommend, anybody here in the crowd and the learnings that you went through. But maybe like as we dive in for CoCheck, you live in a real world. It's actually not only happening on the phone. There's actually a real world aspect or a physical store aspect related to this. So what kind of challenges do you have if you talk about engagement and keeping your users engaged?
Exactly. So CoCheck, as I said earlier, is a scanning app. When does the user use the app is either on the store, when we are at TM, Rossmann, Reve, whatever, Douglas, we check our cosmetics, we want to buy cosmetics. How often do we buy cosmetics? Rarely, or not every day, for sure. Or when it comes to the food, how often do we buy food? Also not every day, probably once a week, maybe twice a week. So yes, the natural frequency of the app usage for us specifically is not every day. It happens in more like rare time frames. That's the challenge. And also, the additional thing is that we provide a lot of information, especially in the very beginning. The user is very excited, usually, to use the app. They go to, I don't know, a supermarket, they scan all the products they are using, or they come home, they scan also all the products they have in their bathroom, and they know from that moment on which product is good, which product is not good. We have provided already alternative recommendations which are greener or more sustainable or healthier, and therefore they know. So here comes the challenge, where basically we need to set up re-engagement journeys or personalization journeys. And this is where CRM kicks off to tackle this challenge, basically.
Right. So you see very high engagement right from the get-go. People are very excited, and then after that, it's like, hey, but what's the value driver to come back, and how do we do that? Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine that's a big challenge, but we'll touch upon that a little bit later. John, maybe for you, because you mentioned like, hey, I install 200 apps every month and I just go through the onboarding and check out all what they're doing as part of your research. How do you explain to your mom what you're doing? Because like, that sounds like an insane thing to do, and I can just imagine what my mom would be like. What are you doing with all those apps, and what are you actually doing for Share the Meal?
I mean, my mom wanted me to be an architect, so I told them, I'm an architect, but I'm an architect of stories, I don't write the stories. I get the stories from other people, like copywriters, designers, and product, like chapters. I put them together, and I create a journey, a personalized journey that like every user will have a personalized experience, these books where you can choose your, how do you say this?
Own adventure.
Your own adventure books, something like that, but with a different medium that is the app. So I would say this is my answer.
Nice. I love it. Cool. And now for you, Kai, like I know you've had different roles at different companies, using CRM. Doing engagement and doing CRM, what for you are sort of the must-haves to make sure that you can be successful at your job or a CRM team can be successful?
In general, I think mobile stack is different for every brand, for every company, for every product. To me, I think, excluding all the other super important things, two things sort of stand out. One would be the platform, so making sure that the tech stack that we have enables us to handle real-time data tracking and analysis, enables us with proper channels. In general, I try to kind of say that we all know that there is the right message sent to the right users at the right time, but to me, it all will come if you have the right tool, the right platform integrated in the right way for each platform. It's different, but you have real data backing it up, and you have the right platform doing the right thing. So that's kind of the customer engagement tool is something that I found to be extremely useful. differs product by product, but you analyze your data and understand what is the thing that works for you, what you need, and from there it's the matter of knowing. And I tried to annoy developers but try to understand how we can work together on the integration to kind of know what we can do, what we can't do. Because if you just come and sort of try to to do on the surface without understanding it from kind of how things work under the hood, it gets a bit complicated and you get a bit kind of frustrated when you kind of explain that, well, it's legacy, we didn't integrate it, so we don't know it will never work. So it's one thing, and kind of similarly, and kind of part of that is that you have to have data. It's not enough just to use the data that you have on your platform, or like the customer engagement, campaign performance data. You have to use all the data, and we collect, so like we all know, we collect a lot of data on users. So why not use it? It's just a matter, I think, for me to understanding what we need, how we can merge it, and then figuring out a way to unite it and to work, to use it, but just not letting data go to waste. Yeah, I think that's kind of the primary two things that I found to be extremely important.
Yeah. So, having the great technology, but having it integrated correctly with the right data set so you can actually make it actionable. And I think that's really a key part. I mean, you can see it from the logos here, from myself as well. Like as a vendor, you read their website and you can do all these amazing use cases, but it doesn't get to the value until you know what you're doing and you actually have a plan. What has been for you, from integrating different tools, like working together with the developers, getting your data or your taxonomy right? Like, what's the biggest challenge there, or what would you advise if somebody was doing that from the first time on? Like, what do you need to do that correctly?
That's a great question. I think, in my experience, it all comes down to sort of, there are a lot of multiple steps that would be involved in this process. It all has to start with data. Different platforms have different ways of their data tracking or data sort of configuration. And in order to choose the platform, you have to analyze a lot and to understand what are the events you're working with, what are the attributes that you can work with, whether you will be sending data in real time or you can batch things, batch data. And then this is kind of data analysis. And the second part, I think, just the understanding of the challenge would be in, we as marketers, as CRM especially, people want to personalize as much as possible, but at times it becomes too much personalization. Partially because if we send all the data that we have on users, we kind of, going back to my point, we don't want it to waste this data. Yeah. So we use it all, but it just becomes too invasive. And this is kind of, I found, using data, but at the same time keeping this balance between doing what can be measured and what is driving the goal you want to achieve on a campaign basis, but at the same time, being mindful of the society, because, for example, we all want to use first name, because personalization, we want to address the user in a proper way. But when it comes to certain products that use passport data, as in like the name that the user has in their passport, it becomes a tricky situation, because dead naming people is not good. But we as marketers don't know whether this data can be applicable to a user, or whether we can omit it. So this kind of handling of real-time data and having the data, enough data to use it, but at the same time not crossing the boundary, and this kind of finding this balance, I find quite challenging, but at the same time it's super exciting, because you can do so much, just a matter of constantly analyzing and seeing what works, what doesn't.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's a lot of tricky parts when you try to personalize data, because it's or use personalization in your application, because you don't know always where the data is coming from. Can I use it? If I can use it, how can I then manage it? Yeah. How is that for CoCheck?
Our users are extremely conscious, extremely conscious about what they shop, extremely aware of. That's why they come to CoCheck, because they want to know more. They want to know the details. But at the same time, they're very personal data, privacy sensitive. We know this. We've been wanting, for example, to do geolocation, because the user is using the app when they are on the physical store. But we never did this because we were talking with our users, and we know how conscious and how sensitive they are in these kind of topics. So yes, personalization, but up to a certain level. When you really provide value to the user, when it's something relevant, product recommendation, for example, in our case, or depending on the different ingredients they have said they want to avoid, then again, maybe some editorial content or something which is like extremely relevant, but yeah, up to a level, up to a specific limit.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And for you, John, you mentioned you worked with about 3-4 different apps. How do you go about personalizing your journeys, and do you see a big difference between the apps that you worked on?
Well, I managed to create kind of. I was researching a lot of how you map a journey, and I come up with a framework that it could be used in different products. That is really basic. Like you have a line of activations that has different stages, like the habit moment, the aha moment, and so on, and then a vertical of engagement where you try to bring users to the top, from casual users to more core power, and if they go down, you go more to the resurrection part. So using this framework, I can apply in different products, but there are things like, for example, what is key is the natural frequency of the product. Now, if you are Facebook that you're using it every day, it's different that you have a product like I was working in Black Lane. You was not driving a chauffeur car every day. The natural frequency was every 3 months you have 2 rides, go to the airport, coming back. So then channels like push are not so engaged because you don't want to annoy customers when they are not using the product. So you will use more the push when they are in the car, or when they are to reinforce the value proposition and the experience in the car. But during the other stages, when you are not using the app, then you will work with channels like email, with heavy content, and like yearly reports of all the countries you visit, all the kilometers you did, and things like that. So it's really about the frequency will be one point. Also, if you have a subscription app or not, this can also be a different way that you construct these journeys. So I would say these 2 points, but I would say every app is our own world, and the way you map these journeys and how you personalize is really different, and also the channels you can leverage.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I'd love to get a bit of a discussion about exactly those things. I think the example that you gave here, like as a ride-sharing app, like we might not go through after the initial onboarding, like the weekly reminder or something like that, which you might have with like more of a fitness app or something like that. But like, hey, when the user is using the product, that's when we want to really leverage personalization to make the experience that they have, even if it's only once a month, to make that really, really memorable. I'd love to know for each of your apps, maybe just to kick off the discussion, like, hey, what are the specific journeys that you guys are focusing on? Like maybe besides from what we all know is like, okay, yeah, I need to have a great onboarding experience because we want to collect some data. But is there something unique to your app that you mentioned in the beginning? Maybe like we get a high volume of data. What are the journeys that happen afterwards? I'm curious to hear that from all 3 of you.
So for us, as you said, yes, the onboarding journey is quite important, but it's a very short one. What we actually did at CoCheck a year ago is we implemented an onboarding questionnaire. Why we did this? Because before that, I was working for a subscription model on personalized supplements in the supplement industry, where the first thing the user would do is to answer a questionnaire, and then the algorithm would suggest specific vitamins or supplements based on the answers of the user. We saw really strong metrics there, also in terms of like retention and lifetime value. Therefore, first thing when I arrived at CoCheck, we did this onboarding questionnaire, which we tested it because we wanted, of course, to know whether it makes sense in terms of like onboarding complete rate, etc. At the end, it really worked. So what we do basically is the user gets to answer why he comes to CoCheck, what are the ingredients they want to avoid, and what are the main product categories they are interested in. Therefore, we already have some information on what the user is looking to see at CoCheck. And after he does like the first interaction with the first products, we don't bother the user, but then we use this personalization journey together with user behavior data, so a combination basically, to use it as a re-engagement / personalization, where we, either remind the user that, some of the products that he has been scanning are not relevant anymore, or we have our own algorithm with the alternative recommendations, where we suggest better, greener, sustainable products. Therefore, we kind of start using these re-engagement journeys after maybe the first 3 weeks or after the first month, because on the first month, we have a solid retention. And basically, through the onboarding questionnaire and the user behavior where we build these journeys, we really managed to see a difference in the retention rate also for the second month. So this has been really working for us. And then onboarding personalization, and then we also use RFM data to build churn journeys, for example, for users that it's been a while that they didn't interact with our product. This we are still trying to optimize. But yeah, getting right the re-engagement / personalization journey has been really like a turning point for us, and using the onboarding questionnaire.
Gotcha. Yeah. What about you, Kai? Is there any specific, part of the journey with Ada Health that you say like, hey, this is quite unique to our situation, and that's something that we absolutely have to get right if we want to retain users?
I think it all sort of boils down to retention. In our case, it's we are an app that is primarily used by people when they are feeling unwell and they want to check or like double check. In certain markets, in other markets, it's where access to healthcare is not that good, even in developed countries. We become sort of the first point of contact when it comes to sort of checks to make sure that you don't have to go to a doctor and things like that. So for us, we have this challenge of driving repetitive usage of the app, but at the same time, we can't create this opportunity because otherwise, we can't just, hey, are you sure you're not sick? Maybe you should check. That wouldn't be very.
Have you tried that though? Like,
I mean, it could
if
work.
If I would get a push notification, are you sure you're not sick? I'd be pretty tempted to take action on that.
Our brand team will probably find us and slightly. But for us, it's the matter of understanding the natural, as John mentioned, the natural sort of frequency of the app usage, trying to determine because it can't, of course, again, it goes back to data. We need to understand how often does the user sort of naturally use the app, or in general, how this specific cohort of a user, how do they tend to use the app? It all depends on the market, so it all comes also down to having enough data to understand who our users are and what we can do with them. But driving, the challenge for us is the nature of the product. It's by nature not the most product that you can build a healthy, or pun intended, relationship with. But it is a very interesting point, as Andy mentioned earlier on in his presentation. Content becomes something that is very interesting for us. We're kind of in the process of rolling out a new version of the app where we will have the kind of content-based communication, and this, for us, could be one of the interesting elements that we could use to leverage engagement and retention. But this is kind of, I think, for us, would be the most challenging, but also very exciting thing to try and to build a proper way to.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's kind of like, and you have sort of the same problem if there's no core engagement loop, right? Like, we're not a fitness app and say, like, do your 3 workouts every week. It becomes a new question of like, hey, what does engagement even mean? What does retention even mean? Like, is it okay if a user only uses this once every 2 months, maybe? Or do we need to push that further? What about you, John? What is a key aspect of journeys that you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to build kind of from scratch CRM and retention in these different apps. And we usually start looking at the retention curve to see where we can leverage. And usually the main problem is always in activation, no? Is where if you work in the activation, you will get more engaged users at the end. And usually there is what I call is the end part of the activation just before they become engaged. Because for me, activation is not that you create an account or you make your first booking or you make your first donation, or it's more about you discover this aha moment, no? What is about the product, and then you get to the habit of using the product. So usually it's measured with 2 actions in a period of time, and then you are inside of this habit, then you become engaged, no? And then we will move. But I think this part of getting to this aha moment, to the habit moment, I think it's key if you leverage there and you put some attention at the beginning. The part more about churn, resurrection, and things is something I leave more for the end. I prefer to work more in prevention, no? Prevent the user to become dormant or churn. And yeah, I would say I would work in these 2 parts.
Yeah. So really, yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, for sure.
How do you define the aha moment for share the meal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm fighting a lot with product about that. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask a similar question. Actually, is like, what you're saying, like, hey, work in prevention, work in, there's an activation phase, not necessarily just account creation, but showing certain behavior and then continuing to show that behavior week over week, month over month, whatever that is. How do you monitor or create those metrics that you look at? Like, it's not necessarily DAU or MAU, because that's in that sense a bit of a flawed metric. I mean, it says something, but it doesn't really tell you anything about the engagement of your users. Do you have a definition of a set of metrics that you look at?
Yeah, for example, in the spiritual app, it was more like weekly base, because it was like a WhatsApp where you can chat with a medium and you pay €3, and the idea is to get a conversation with the medium. So there will be like have 2 messages per week, no?
Yeah.
2 V. No? This will be one of the metrics. In where I'm working now, it's different because we have subscription model, and also you can make single donations. So then we have 2 use cases, and we need to come up with two different metrics. No? And for the monthly subscription, it's not enough that you are subscribed month by month. It's like you are visiting the app at least 2 times per month to visit the newsfeed cards that is giving you impact about what is happening with your donation in the field. So something like 2 views per month.
Yeah, and that defines an active user, which you assume will get more engaged, more personalized, and drive more value for the business.
It will be like a casual engaged user, no?
Gotcha.
If you get 4 views, then it will be more a core, and then if you make 10, it's a more powerful, and you want to get there, no? Make the user to use more the app.
Gotcha. Maybe to reflect the question with you as well. Do you have an aha moment for CoCheck, or?
Yeah. So we've been running quite some analysis here for the last year, and we've been focusing a lot on the behavior of the power users and the churn users to try to define why, like, what is different for the power users, what is different for the churn. We do a lot of user testing, a lot of user interviews, and try to understand, how often they use or why they would use, why they would quit. Quite a lot of churn surveys. And then on the power users, what we found out is that basically a power user is the one who, I don't know, is scanning more than 7 products within 3 days, for example, and then keeps coming back at least for a month. Then the chances are much higher that he will come back in the 2nd month. And definitely the aha moment is the scanning. So because in the app you can do also other things, you can maybe scroll around different products, or we have like an editorial team and a news feed where we kind of do more emotional call-outs to our users. Because they are conscious users, they have a lot of awareness about very interesting topics. We write a lot about it, and this is also a way we try to kind of emotionally reach out to our users to make them come back, which actually works. However, that's not the aha. That's not why users are using CoCheck, is because the actual scanning moment is really what opens them up a totally new world into the different ingredients they are using. And yeah, and basically it's a life changer moment because you realize, okay, all what
We're
I've been
connecting the physical with the digital.
exactly, and also to realize like what kind of products we are using every day and how bad they are, and then okay, you start changing everything in your shelves, basically.
Kai, for you, is the aha moment getting sick or?
It's a hand moment. But I tried to base all these discussions around basically what did we promise the user, like what is the, what's the intent for, like which the user had to download our app, what is it that we're promising them, and this completion of this action that we promised them, in our case it's assessment, so for us it's the completion of a user assessment. Or like the first assessment is just an indication that user kind of completed the journey that they intended to and that we promised that they will get to. But it's all, to me, comes down to keeping our promises and making sure that we are very strong in that promise. So we're not, even if users can do multiple actions within the app, we want to make sure that users understand what is the core action that they can take. Because for us, as both kind of on the product side and for specifically CRM side, it is easier to measure and to kind of iterate based off of specific actions that we want users to take. So this kind of purpose-driven, in our case, assessments is something that we center our analysis on.
Gotcha. Yeah, cool. So I've got one more question for you guys, and then I want to actually personalize the session a little bit since we're talking about personalization by using some of the audience questions. So already take a peek if you're not answering my question. There's some of those that are coming up shortly. But we're talking about aha moments, getting more engaged users, right? Going from 2 reads to 4 reads to 10 reads, again to the power user level for you the same. And the whole panel here is a little bit about personalization, right? So have you seen that personalization actually works to drive more of those power users? And from a CRM perspective, what channels are you seeing that are most effective for your personalization strategies to get there? Because I assume that's the goal, right?
Definitely through the onboarding questionnaire I just mentioned and the personalization journey with product recommendations or content recommendations. We have like a very heavy content product. So through this, we saw increase of retention first month and second month, like 4 digits up. The main channels we are using is, unfortunately, push and a little bit of in-app. Why we're doing this? Because we are not focusing a lot on the user to sign up through the onboarding, but also neither afterwards, because exactly we've had the feedback that our users are extremely picky. And we know that they don't really like to be rushed to sign up. They will only do it after they feel comfortable, etc. So basically, email is a little bit restricted. Therefore, the main way to make the user come back and really create the personalization, messaging, and tailoring the way we communicate with them, we use push and then in-app a little bit, exactly when the aha moment happens, or right after it happens, etc. I would have liked to use more email. For the users that are signed up, we do a combination of both, and it works really well. However, we don't really like to push the user to sign up. So we try to do it step by step, and maybe it happens later for the power users. So yes, push.
And in a way, that's kind of personalization as well, right? Like just taking in consideration, like,
exactly.
Hey, we need to guide you up to a certain point where you're comfortable to share information with us, rather than being like hard paywall upfront, boom, let's go, we get all your information, and then we use that to give you a more personalized journey, which I think for a lot of brands can work, counterintuitive, which is, I think, the way we're all trained is like, let's collect more data, but it's about the right data to use it there.
Exactly.
Yeah. John, for you, personalization strategies.
I mean, in the Life Advice app, it was really in-app, the key channel. Push also. Email, we was almost not sending because it's a little bit sensitive information. And then the inbox, you have like an inbox inside of the app where you can upload information, or newsfeed cards, it's called also. But in-app, then in the Black Link Chauffeur service, it was email. And also we implemented this inbox to make the user come back, not just to book a ride, so to get content. No, we had, for example, some use cases, like one of the data points we had of the users, you need to think about these users they travel globally. So today I go from the Hotel Athlon to Berlin, then I get a flight to New York, and in New York I get another black lane to the Athlon Hotel in New York. So what we can do is, like, we send up, when he's in the ride in New York, going back to the hotel, we send them a push. The push goes to this inbox inside of the app, and in the app, we show them a guide of the best restaurants in New York. And he's inside of the car, so the experience is like we are reinforcing this experience of peace of mind, that you have a chauffeur opening your doors, everything. You get your guides, you get even when you are in Berlin, you get the weather that is going to be in New York, connected to some kind of API of weather app, so we was really focusing in the experience of this travel thing, no? And right now in Share the Meal, we are using mainly push and email for now. But I mean, we have implemented our tool not so far ago, so we are right in baby steps still. So, yeah. But also an important thing is that I would like to say to the audience that we need to always think out of the box, not just you have email in-app push. You can, depending your app, you can use maybe Chrome extensions. You can make some extension inside of email clients. You can direct marketing, and with wearables, no, you will be able to have other kind of channels that you should leverage. For example, in Share the Meal, we have an API integration, so other apps can use it. Like we have a partnership with Delivery Hero. So when you purchase a burger, after the purchase, you receive a prompt that, hey, share a meal with someone in need. So we are using another app as a channel for us, no? So this is important also to think out of the box. It's really product related at the same time, but it can come from a CRM person also, no? To bring this kind of thinking broadly, no? Yeah.
On that note, real quick, do you think CRM is a marketing function or a product function?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's evolving, I think. I really hate the CRM wording around, because it comes from sales, from nurturing a kind of leads and having profiles and checking the call phones that you are doing. Now it's evolving to this marketing automation, engagement. So I would say that in some years it will be another name, no? So
it's more driving. I mean, if we talk about personalization in the context here, it's about creating the best experience for the user, which as a effect will drive more conversion and revenue. But ultimately, it's not just a nurture channel to get more sales.
It's moving to product, no? And also we are kind of in the retention metric that it's the leverage our CRM and product together. So the more close you are with product, the better. But at the same time, you're a marketeer and you're sailing, so it's an hybrid, I would say. Yeah.
I think you said the word experience, which is like user experience, UX, product. It's everything kind of interrelated, I think. You cannot see CRM independently. You have to check on the funnel to understand where are the highest drops, to do user research, to understand what the users, what your personas are, what kind of people that are using your app are. So you can't really see CRM independently. You need to, or in CoCheck at least, we work extremely close with the product owner. We analyze the data together. We really generate quite a lot of learnings from analyzing the different steps of the funnel, where the user is standing. We, as I said earlier, power users versus churn, what is the differences between those two, and then building the journeys and the communication depending on the learnings and the insights that we get from the funnel analytics.
Yeah. This may be interesting because I see one of the questions here that came in from the audience is like, UA is obviously a huge focus, but with the rising costs and difficulty, how do you shift your focus to increasing on loyalty or retention of existing users? I always think that UA and CRM, they're kind of associated to each other. Well, in practice, it might actually be closer to product and looking at the retention and the funnel and things like that. Any perspective either on the question or on that from anyone? I don't know, Kai?
From my perspective, from what my experience, CRM can, to the previous question, I see CRM more as a product base, because to me CRM is sort of, as John mentioned, marketing automation. So and then CRM is such a dynamic environment where our key is to test and learn as much as possible, and then it's ideally goes to the product where your tests are kind of implemented on a permanent basis. But when it comes to connection to UA, I see CRM as a great way of reducing the budget or reducing the costs, because both for kind of UA and sort of when it comes to retargeting and remarketing, because we can, especially when we can build an audience and a segment and push it to our retargeting channels, whereas we know we can reach these users with CRM channels, so we don't have to waste opportunity and waste real estate space and all and budget to target them with paid channels. But the same goes with user acquisition. We can learn so much out of users, and CRM has such a great way to learn and to gather insights that we can kind of push that back to UA and work together to optimizing and understanding who our users are, how we can iterate our conversion events, how we can iterate back on the channels, on the audiences that we are targeting for user acquisition. Because if we see that we have a lot of installs coming from a certain network, or even from a certain, let's say, segment, but we see that on the product side they don't go anywhere, they kind of install the app, but if they're paid, that doesn't make sense to keep losing money and keep wasting your money on them. But instead, we in CRM can test around a lot. We can gather this data, and just to me, it's CRM is a way to get a lot of learnings. It can go into either direction, or all the directions within the product or within the brand. It's the matter of communication, and something that I've been noticing quite a lot now that I get older and understand that communication is key. Without it, you will work in silos and nothing will ever happen. You have to share. And this is kind of why I think CRM should be more in the product, because human situation-wise, it is easier to share things with the sort of your sister teams that are working under the same sort of grander goal. Because when CRM is in marketing, but then you have to work extremely closely with product, it is your key stakeholder to me. But then they're like, wait, you're a different department, so get out.
Yeah, I would say to place it in the growth team.
Exactly. Growth team is where it should be.
But what I get from your story is basically what you're saying is CRM is the most important function in a company, right? Because that's all I heard. That's like all of you should get a raise now. But yeah, I mean the growth team aspect is I think a very interesting thing, because I think there you combine multiple disciplines, right? And you have a product background and you have a marketing background to kind of bring that together. We got a couple minutes left. So what I want to kind of end with is what is your biggest or most exciting initiative for the upcoming year? When we look at engagement, when we look at personalization, what are you going to be focusing on? You want to start, Elena?
Competition.
Competition. Okay.
I mean, in the industry of sustainability, environmental, healthy wellness is extremely growing, and while CoCheck used to be the only player in the market 10 years ago, we've had so much competition recently, and it's normal and it's great, because it's great to have more sustainable products and apps and awareness. But yeah, trying to differentiate on that aspect with different features, focusing a lot on the product itself is one of our main challenges.
Gotcha. Okay.
Diversity. Ideally, it becoming not, well, it's so nice to have diversity. It has to be a must. It has to be in your DNA and in the body of your work, because when when you try to push for more diversity, it goes to it's legacy coding, binary options that have been programmed. We can't change anything. Yes. Change things. Otherwise, if we don't change, nothing will change. So to me, the grander and shift of the focus on diversity as something that you have to kind of maybe do, but as opposed to something that has to be there. Otherwise, why are you even doing things? So focus on diversity is something that I'm definitely looking forward, and I'm kind of gearing up to fight for in the upcoming year.
Nice. I like it. John?
Yeah, I think this year is great for retention and CRM. I think we are in the era of retention and CRM. If you go to the App Promotion Summit 5 years ago, 80% of the panels were about acquisition, and we was like a niche. Now it's kind of becoming 50 and 50, and that's because the investors are starting to see that they need to invest in companies that have a good retention to have a sustainable growth. Because with acquisition, you can just boost a lot of users to come in, and it looks, you can fake the numbers and say, okay, we have a lot of users, invest here. But if you don't look deeper and you see that all the new users you're bringing are staying and using the product, it's not a sustainable growth. So now they understand that they need to invest. So, and I see it in the recent years, like there are popping up a lot of roles about retention manager, CRM. It's like, and 4 years ago when I was searching for a job in retention, it was really hard. But now it's like everywhere they are searching, all the companies.
Awesome.
So I think we are in a nice moment. And I wish that in 5 years we have the new medium that is not an app anymore, and it's kind of augmented reality, glasses, and we can send notifications to the glasses and so on. And
I love it.
Black Mirror will become a reality.
Nice, cool. Unfortunately, we're already out of time. Things went really fast. I think key takeaways, CRM, architects of personalized journeys, really aligned with product, but not forgetting UA. It deserves a spot on the main stage, and I wish everybody good luck. I hope this was useful. Thank you, panelists, very much for joining us here.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of your conference. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.